Of confidence coming into tonight's NBA draft. Yesterday, he told reporters that he was born to be the #1 overall pick. The confidence is warranted since many mock drafts do have LaMelo going to the Timberwolves with the top pick tonight, while some have them taking Anthony Edwards. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard joining us now. Chris, I'm curious what you think about LaMelo. Is he the best player in this draft?
That's a tough question. Look, he's got some natural gifts that you just can't teach. You saw the highlights. He is a legit 6'6" point guard with great court vision and passing ability. Now, you could say that about his brother Lonzo, who obviously hasn't been a great pro to date. But what I like about him more than Lonzo is that he'll keep the ball in his hands. Like, Lonzo's very quick to give it up and doesn't make a lot of plays off the dribble. Whereas LaMelo will pat the ball and make plays off the bounce, keep it a lot longer than Lonzo does. I think he'll be better at pick and roll than Lonzo. So I like him a lot. In talking to teams around the league, people are concerned about a lack of maturity. He doesn't even know the defensive end of the floor exists. So he's not even thinking about playing any defense. And the other thing is, this guy has had a real small amount of real competition or competitive play. Like, we know what it was like when he was in high school in California, right? It was cherry picking galore, playing with his brothers and all that stuff. Then he goes to Lithuania, where they only play exhibition games. He wasn't playing in like a legitimate European league facing men and real competition. It was exhibition games. He comes back and goes to this high school in Ohio, I think it was Spire, and everything was built around him being there. They just wanted his star power. And then when he goes to Australia, the league, rather than the team, paid his salary and dictated to the team, look, he's going to be your starting point guard. You've got to play him. And when he played, despite the nice highlights, they really didn't win. And so a lot of teams are wondering about, you know, his attitude toward the game. Nobody disputes his talent, but there are major concerns about the intangibles. Michael Jordan really likes him, and I actually think that's where he's going. I think Anthony Edwards will go first to Minnesota. I think James Wiseman goes second to Golden State, and LaMelo goes third to Charlotte and Michael Jordan. And if he can be in a professional environment and mature, he could be a great player. But right now, I think James Wiseman is the best player in the draft. And I think going forward, Anthony Edwards will become the best player in this draft.
Well, Skip and I was talking about it earlier today. Is because you don't have a Shaq, you don't have a LeBron or Tim Duncan. This is why we're still having these questions, because those were slam dunks. No matter what you wanted, you couldn't trade your entire franchise to get those guys, because those guys were viewed as franchise-altering players. I don't think anybody in this draft is being viewed as a franchise-altering player. And you have the same concerns that I have. It's the sample size in which I've seen him against competitive competition. We haven't seen a whole lot of that. At least we saw Edwards a whole year in college. We saw Wiseman play high school ball, and we saw him play, 5, 6 games in college. But we've seen something. We haven't really seen competitive basketball from LaMelo. But because he's 6'7" point guard, and because the big is not as valuable as it once was, now maybe Wiseman can work on his shot and get out the three-point range like Anthony Davis did. Because if you remember when he came out, Chris, AD wasn't shooting no threes at Kentucky. AD was a defensive stopper.
Right.
Averaging over 4 blocks a game, but he was a little over 13 points, I think 10 or 11 rebounds. So, but he worked on that aspect of his game, and now he's added that to his game. Edwards, I like Edwards. Tremendous off the bounce, can get to the rack, can get to the rim, shoot the mid-range, three-point shot, leaves a lot to be desired. But because I think LaMelo has so much upside, and that's when you look at basketball, that's what they look at, upside. His ceiling is ceiling. I believe he's going to go #1. Is he the best player? I don't know about all that, but I believe because of his upside is so great, I believe he goes 1.
All I know is that LaMelo Ball times 100 is the most intriguing player in this draft. And I'm here to tell you that sitting in a seat right here at this table 4 years ago, his father, LeVar, love having him on the show, don't always agree with him, but LeVar told me in a break, my youngest is going to be by far my best.
Yeah, and the biggest.
He's the biggest. Yeah, Chris said 6'6". I think he's 6'7" already, and they're saying they're not sure he stopped growing. They're not sure he won't end up being a 6'8" point guard. He obviously has his oldest brother's passing gift. He is a much more offensively talented and willing player than Lonzo is. Right. And yet, Chris, I asked Shannon this earlier, and I don't have a great answer to it. I just know what that little voice in the back of my mind is screaming at me. Are we sure that these Ball kids care enough about winning, about being great? Are we sure they have any killer will in them? Do they have the drive, the hunger, the passion for basketball that it takes to eventually dominate at the NBA level? I'm just not sure about it. And the irony of this is, LeVar is straight out of Compton. His kids are straight out of Chino Hills because they grew up fairly privileged. Let's say, I'm going to give it like upper middle class.
Right.
And I'm not going to say they had silver spoons in their mouths, but they had cars at 16, 17. They had Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and we got it. And already LaMelo is a star of a reality show called Ball in the Family. You're going to have to deal with that whole package of what does he really want to do with his life? Is he going to be obsessed with being great in the NBA? I don't get that from Lonzo. I get the feeling like they're playing a video game that's how they look at basketball. And they can be really good at it because they're gifted just by doing it that way. But I'm talking about the first pick in the draft. And to your point, there's not a Shaq, there's not a Magic, there's not that guy. Yeah, there's not a difference maker. There's not a LeBron who's going to change your life.
Right.
But still, if you want a gate attraction, again, I would love to see LaMelo go to Michael Jordan because Michael needs a gate attraction. He needs a sideshow, and LaMelo would be the ultimate sideshow.
Well, Skip, when I look at it, Chris, and maybe you can attest to this, it's hard to instill the values because the way I came up to try to raise my kids like that, Skip, you're going to jail.
I got it.
So LeVar growing up in Compton and trying to instill Compton values in Chino.
There's just some hunger. There's something where I got to do this. There's a fear of failure that drove you.
Yes.
A fear of failure. I don't want to fail.
But see, here's the thing, though, Chris. When my grandmother's, telling me things, it's easy because I'm looking around, I'm in 1,000 square foot. Me trying to tell my kids they got 10,000 in a 3-car garage, it doesn't resonate the same.
It doesn't. I agree.
But some guys have it. I mean, look, one of the greatest guys with the killer instinct was who? Kobe Bryant.
Yes.
He grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, privilege, and nobody wanted it more. And Michael Jordan, he was probably what, middle class?
Just middle class.
Yes.
Yep, middle class. Wilmington. Yep.
Right. So some guys just have it. But, with LaMelo, a thing a lot of guys around the league talk about, like executives, is did you choose the game or did the game choose you?
Yep.
And guys that choose the game really love it and continue to work at it even after they get the celebrity, the fame, the money, the women, all of that. There are guys that the game chose because of your size, because of your athletic ability, maybe in this case because of your parents and your family, your dad, And so that's the big question, Skip. You're right, with LaMelo. And there are a lot of people that feel like he is